Okay. Well, welcome everyone to Pivoting Creatively in a COVID-19 World. I'm your moderator, Suzanne Willever, Manager of Outreach and Communication for Education Abroad and Overseas Campuses within the Office of International Affairs. I want to thank you for joining us today as we kick off Global Reach, Global Teach, a celebration of International Education Week at Temple University. As you all know, this has been an incredibly challenging year for people all around the world. The global pandemic, COVID-19, has heightened our need for global collaboration to solve global problems. Yet it has delivered unprecedented challenges to international education, hampering our ability to send students abroad and to bring international students to the U.S. Temple University does have an advantage, though, with campuses on 3 continents, Temple Japan in Asia, Temple Rome in Europe, and main campus in Philadelphia, as well as partners around the world. Temple truly has a global reach. Throughout this week, you'll be able to attend sessions that demonstrate the ways that we can use technology to foster intercultural learning, bringing together the diverse perspectives of faculty experts and students from across our campuses. We also invite our faculty to participate in the new International Collaboration Connection program. It's an opportunity to enrich our courses next semester by hosting a guest lecture or student discussion with a faculty member from abroad. Our international teams have been working throughout this year to provide continued services and education to our students, especially through technology. I'm so pleased to bring these leaders together for you today to share the solutions they have implemented and their vision for the future of Global Temple. Matthew Wilson is Dean of Temple University Japan campus. He earned his law degree from Temple's Beasley School of Law and spent many years at TUJ, first as a student and subsequently as director of the law program, associate dean, and general counsel. This September, Mr. Wilson returned to the nest as dean after serving as president of Missouri Western State University and the University of Akron. He brings extensive knowledge and experience developing e-global learning, including virtual exchanges. Dr. Emilia Zankina is Dean of Temple Rome. She holds a PhD in International Affairs from the University of Pittsburgh and previously served as Provost of the American University in Bulgaria and Associate Director of the Center for Russian and East European Studies at the University of Pittsburgh. Dean Zankina brings more than a decade of experience in international education, both in the United States and Europe, and a deep commitment to the liberal arts tradition. Her experience and ingenuity has proved invaluable since she took the helm at Temple Rome in spring 2020. Dr. Stephanie Fiore is Assistant Vice Provost and Senior Director of the Center for the Advancement of Teaching at Temple. She earned her PhD in Italian from Rutgers University and has since fulfilled many roles at Temple. In addition to 30 years of teaching experience, Dr. Fiore has worked with faculty as mentor and program head, both in the Italian department and at the Intensive English Language Program, now called the Center for American Language and Culture. She is a tireless advocate for teaching excellence and fostering intercultural learning for our students. Dr. Martyn Miller is Assistant Vice President for the Office of International Affairs. He earned his BA from the American University of Beirut in English Literature and teaching English as a foreign language, and his PhD from the University of Georgia in Medieval English Literature, where he previously served as department head for the American Language Program. More than 2 decades ago, he joined International Affairs at Temple, where he oversees the International Student Services Unit and serves as liaison to the Faculty Senate International Programs Committee. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment to give you a sense of our flow for today. We'll ask that you keep yourselves on mute for now and use the chat to submit your comments and questions. We'll get started by addressing what the last few months have been like for Temple's campuses around the world amidst limitations to student mobility. We'll take a brief pause to field a couple of questions from the chat, and then we'll turn our discussion to the future of Global Temple, and we'll include, again at the end, a Q&A. Okay, so let's get started by taking a look back. So first, Dean Zankina. Temple Rome students were among the first to return home early last spring when cases spiked in Italy. And then, of course, we subsequently had to cancel our summer and fall study abroad programs. Given that hosting study abroad students is a major function of TUR, how have Temple Rome operations been affected by COVID-19?
Yes, of course, the first steps were those of an emergency situation, getting the students safely home and finishing the semester, which our team was able to accomplish impeccably, and our professors were able to convert to online teaching even in the most challenging of situations, such as in a painting class or architecture class. And then, of course, the big question was, how do we bring value to students when they cannot come here? How do we expand their international and global perspective? And how do we still serve our mission? So we have been very creative and managed to start a number of initiatives. One, of course, was to offer courses to all Temple students online so that they could access Rome. And in some cases, this meant walking around Rome with our professors, literally bringing Rome into the classroom. In other cases, it meant talking about issues that bridge between Rome and Europe and the United States, such as race and immigration. This has indeed brought a lot of value to a lot of students that would not ordinarily look into a study abroad experience or consider that they could be interested or could afford it. So in a way, this has allowed us to reach a much broader target audience and a lot more students that we would not ordinarily teach to. So this has been fantastic. Another innovation that we managed to put into place was again an invention of necessity. When the crisis hit, we had about 60 students in internships placed with companies here, anything from an art gallery to a law firm to a startup company. And they needed to finish their internships. So we moved the internships virtually, and then discovered that we could actually design virtual internships. So we've been hosting virtual internships over the summer and this fall, and we have had our students not only enjoy them, but they were able to bring real values to the companies that utilize their talents. In addition to this, another new initiative, we have been able to provide our expertise in any way possible. So, for example, for our Italian department, we were able to create new videos and teaching content. One signature feature of the Italian language program here is our cultural labs, where students are able to go to markets or to museums or to the street or to a restaurant and really learn Italian while experiencing life in Rome. Since we were not able to do that, what we did is we sent our professors out with our filming crew, the so-called Studio 54 crew that we named, and really they're becoming so good at it that I keep joking that soon we'll be renamed to Saturday Night Live. And so we created amazing cultural labs that could be used by our colleagues on main campus, and they could supplement the teaching and they could make the students feel part of Rome. In addition to this, we also offer them tutoring by our Italian professors here, as well as short grammar videos that would help them master the language, again, with the authentic Italian teacher and Rome content. Moreover, we have been able to work with Japan and with Philadelphia to have our professors deliver guest lectures and provide a global perspective in any class. So not necessarily a class that is focused on international affairs in any way or that has an international component, but it could benefit from this additional perspective. So our professors have given lectures on a number of topics, from art history to architecture and urban neighborhoods to, again, race, social movements, and immigration. So those are some of the ways that we have been able to still serve our mission and still have students gain this global mindset and broaden their horizons, even within this constrained reality of being unable to travel. Of course, the best experience is to be here and to be immersed in the culture and in the city and in the country. But in the absence of that, I think that we have done a great job pivoting, as you have named the panel so well, to something that has really allowed us to be ever more creative. And the best part of this is that those initiatives would not be just a crisis reaction. Now that we have seen how that works and how well we've done, it is something that would continue hand in hand with anything we do here on the ground. So I do hope that regardless of what happens in the near and longer term future, we'll continue with our virtual internships, with our guest lectures, with our cultural labs, and with our online classes.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. And so I mentioned earlier in the session that we have created this whole Global Teach, Global Reach initiative around it. And some of the cultural labs that you're talking about are showcased on that website. And we'll share that website with all of you again at the end. But Temple Rome has done a really impressive job of pivoting this year. So congratulations and thank you for doing that. Dean Wilson, TUJ is a degree granting institution and is open year-round to matriculated students. It sounds like you have been able to run in-person activities this semester. What has life been like on TUJ's campus, and how have you approached those activities?
Yes, and good early Tuesday morning from Tokyo. It's great to see everybody here. We're about 6:45 in the morning for those who want to feel really international along those lines. We have been blessed here in Tokyo as we continue to emphasize health and safety and prioritize that with our students. Japan has done a fairly good job keeping COVID-19 under control. So when you talk about being here in Tokyo, a city of 19 million in Tokyo proper, and you expand that out to the borders, and you're picking up about 63 million. We've been averaging somewhere between, I'd say 75 and maybe 300, 350 new COVID cases per day. Very few serious cases, very few deaths. And as a result, this semester has kind of been a shift for us as we started off, very carefully, and we still continue to be careful. We've been able to roll out new student events in line with what the government here in Japan has been allowing. To give you an idea, because of the COVID situation, theaters are open, businesses are open, museums are open, sporting events are almost at full capacity at this point in time. And the Japanese government actually is encouraging domestic travel to boost the tourism industry to the extent that they are subsidizing it, and you can travel for half price at this point in time. And so, along those lines, we have done a whole host of things interculturally on our campus. Unfortunately, we had a number of study abroad students. We couldn't run that program this semester. We're hopeful that we can do it next. Our direct student admits from overseas have been taking classes online, but here on the ground, we have our graduate program, some of them running 100% online, 100% in person. Our undergraduate program is doing about 25% in person right now, and we anticipate that that'll expand. But to give you an idea of some of the things that we have been able to do interculturally, we've naturally been able to do language conversations, virtually. We participated in a walking tour with Homecoming. We've been able to do cultural events online, a virtual shamisen concert that was there. In person though, well, I guess online, one of the blessings of COVID has been the ability to tap into expertise here in Tokyo, around Japan, around Asia, with Rome, as you heard about, and main campus as well, as we've been able to open our classrooms beyond just physical borders and boundaries to have guest lecturers come in. It's wonderful to have more interaction between main campus and TU Rome. I mean, this experience kicking International Education Week off in this format is not ideal, but it's great because we're able to participate and be part of Temple Global even more in this respect. We've gotten creative. One of the priorities that I have as a new dean coming in is to find new ways for TUJ and main campus to interact. And so taking the lead, our associate dean, George Miller, actually is teaching a course this semester where he has 15 students enrolled here at Temple University of Japan. and he has 12 students enrolled at main campus. And so you talk about being truly global, having international content in a course run from Tokyo with main campus students enrolled is something that really is exceptional to have that done as well. We've been able to run some in-person things. So we have student trips to areas of significance. This Saturday, actually, I'm going to be joining our Office of Student Services and taking 25 students on a day trip out into the mountains, where we will experience the fall foliage, and then cap the day off with a trip to a Japanese hot springs before we return to Tokyo as well. And we're blessed. We have a new partner in Showa Women's University that's right next door to our new building that you can see in my background. That building actually is owned by Showa Women's University, but it is our new home. And the great thing is that we are part of the Showa Women University campus. And so our students continue to run joint activities with the Japanese students. And so in-person activities, we have had Halloween events. We have had guest speakers on our campus where Showa Women's University has come over. They just virtually did a Halloween costume party and judged that involving the Japanese students. We have language exchanges. We also do sporting events, which we have been able to carry out with Showa Women's as well. So, we have been blessed in terms of the in-person activities and being able to continue a lot of those while, participating virtually online with TU Maine, TU Rome, and other folks around the world.
So much happening at Temple, Japan. It's really exciting. Thank you for sharing all of that. And some of the examples you mentioned are also available on our website, including the tour of the new TUJ campus and the surrounding neighborhood. That gives you a really good sense for what that neighborhood is like, and of course what the new campus looks like. So great, thank you for sharing that. Dr. Miller, I'd like to turn to you. I know this was a really challenging year for international students due to travel and visa restrictions. How has the Office of International Affairs addressed those challenges?
First of all, yes, I'd like to acknowledge and emphasize the difficult times that international students have had this, I guess, since March. Or in fact, for the last 4 years, they have been used as ping pong balls between two sides of political spectra, so to speak. It became extremely intense in the last 6 months, 8 months. And because of that, one of the things that our office had to do very quickly was become very close friends with the Office of University Counsel and the Office of Federal Government Relations, because though they have helped us in the past, they have never become so close to us as they were. There's Faye, she just came back up, good. So we've had to work with them a lot to ensure that we could advocate on behalf of the international students without violating any of the regulations that we have, of course, to be in compliance with, because the international students wanted to see a university that was supporting them not only in our academic endeavors, but also in their lives and in their careers, if you will, because what's been going on in the past 8 months affected not only their academic programs, but also their careers, or potentially. So that's one of the first things we did was work, again, as I said, with the University Council, Office of Government Relations, and then also brought in the Office of the Provost to make sure that all of the activities that we were engaging in on behalf of the students, again, were in compliance with the things that we could say. Another important thing to remember is that international students, for the most part, did not leave the United States, even though our classes went 90% online. I think our data showed that about 75% of the students remained in the US, most of them in Philadelphia, but others did spread out around the country. So we felt it was necessary to ensure that we had in-person services. So our offices, though most of the university closed down, because of the COVID requirements in mid-March, we tried our best to keep the offices open so that students could come in whenever they had to. And then when the university reopened, if you will, in its current format in mid-August, we, of course, kept those hours. So we've basically been open the whole time. for students who needed in person. I think that was also important for our students. We not only worked closely with University Council and government relations, and I'm going to give a list of other university partners with whom we've worked, of course, in the past, but whom we became much better friends with. And I'll explain why in each case. So first of all, student financial services. All of you, of course, are aware that students took huge economic hits. When the university closed down, student worker jobs were taken away, I know, by necessity, of course. And a lot of our students depended on the income from the student worker jobs. Fortunately, we were permitted by the university administration to underwrite, if you will, some of those losses from our own budget. So we worked closely with Student Financial Services to create a system by which international students who lost their jobs, student worker jobs, could come to us and say, I need a couple of dollars here and there to eat for the next 5 months. And Student Financial Services was really good at making sure that that happened. So that's one thing. Information technology services, I would say, probably became a bosom buddy, if you will, if not a twin, for the first 3 or 4 months. While we worked to figure out where our students were, that was the first thing, and then how to deliver services to them where they were. Of course, those in the US did not have so much trouble with internet, but it's important to remember that even though they stayed in the US, not all the students had equal access to internet. And I want that to remain actually an umbrella statement, because we make assumptions about internet access for our students, domestic and international. I'm sure that Stephanie can probably talk to this later on, but we need to remember that, again, that the access is not universal, if you will. So we worked with ITS, Information Technology Services, to make sure that the students in the US could get what they needed. I know they did things like laptop loaners, they provided space on campus for Wi-Fi access and things like that. So that was important for us. And then a specific example was Information Technology Services recognized relatively early that the students, the bulk of our international students, of course, come from China. A lot of those students went back to China. And as many of you might know, there's this, the Great Chinese Firewall that prevented students in China from getting access to a lot of our services because we were on a Google infrastructure to a great extent, especially email. So Information Technology Services worked really, really quickly to move or pivot, to use that word, if you will, all of our Chinese student email accounts to non-Google, i.e. Exchange, so that they right away did not lose access to the university resources. So thank you to ITS. Stephanie's going to talk more about what we did with Center for Advancement of Teaching, but I need to thank her for very, very quickly creating training tools for our faculty to ensure that the faculty are aware of what it's like to be an international student taking a class, 12-hour time difference, again, internet inaccessibility and things like that. So I think that with what Stephanie's team was able to provide to the faculty, with the technology that ITS was able to provide, we were able as a collective to provide as much as we could to the international students so that they wouldn't lose access to our academic offerings. Graduate school had its own unique problems that we had to work with. They had graduate students who had been assigned assistantships, research, teaching, lab, and they still had to fulfill those contracts. So again, they worked very closely with University Council and the Office of Human Resources and us to identify which students had left and then what needed to be done to ensure that they could continue to provide their services to students. Something you might not be aware of, but Tuttleman Counseling Service had to ramp up its services to international students as well as to domestic students, because we saw, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, we saw an increase in the number of mental difficulties that students, or emotional, actually more than mental, emotional difficulties that students were facing at this time. Our domestic students, if you will, could go back to their families if they needed to. International students could not always go back to their families. So we worked with Tuttleman Counseling Services to provide a weekly group session, not technically group therapy because of laws and regulations, but they provided a weekly session for international students, and that continues now. University housing and residential life was very intentional in ensuring that international students had housing. Sorry, you hear my cat in the background, so I'm sorry about that. I can't do anything about her. So university housing, residential life was very helpful with all of it, with all of our students. And then finally, as you've already heard, Temple Rome and Temple Japan became invaluable partners as we tried to place students who could not otherwise come to the main campus. A couple of other things: education abroad and global programs, 2 units within international affairs, worked extremely closely to place approximately 40 students who could not come to the US with partner schools in China, Taiwan, and Korea, so that they could continue to take courses and that those courses would be counted towards their Temple degree, so they wouldn't lose time by not being able to get here in the fall. And for those students, the Center for American Language and Teaching, American Language and Culture, sorry, was able also to offer language courses to our students, again virtually, so that though they could not get to the country, they did not suffer, if you will, too much with English language proficiency loss. Those courses were offered not only to the new students, well, especially to the new students, but also to continuing students. And I think that's a laundry list. I'm sure I forgot a whole bunch of people that were helping international students, but those are just some of the things that we did so far.
Yeah, and I appreciate you highlighting the fact that it's not just the quote unquote international units, but really this has been a university-wide effort in serving international students. So it's really incredible. And you know, the virtual events that your team has been doing, your Welcome Here Week, participation in Homecoming, the International Student Coffee Hours, just really trying to find ways to serve students. Those recorded events are also available through our website too. So thanks to you and your whole team.
Let me just add a little bit about that, because what we have found, in fact, is the virtual events, and Emilia, correct me, Emilia Hetzel is Director of International Affairs. She's here in this group also. The virtual events are surprisingly attracting a larger audience in some cases than our in-person events before the crisis hit. So maybe that's not strange. Maybe it is because these students are seeking ways to remain connected to us, even though they're not in the country. And so the virtual events, like all of the You Are Welcome Here events 2 weeks ago, our monthly international coffee hours, they are serving as that bridge for the students. And you know, Leah and I have talked about it, and these are going to continue as long as we need to, because the students need that connection to us. And it's also through these events that we're able to find out some of the issues that students are having that they might not otherwise report to us. But by coming to these events, they become more familiar with the staff. And you know, ironically, again, the virtual is making us closer for those events.
Absolutely. It's really wonderful services that you're providing. So thank you, and to Leah and your team as well. So I'm going to turn over to Dr. Fiore at the Center for the Advancement of Teaching, who you already mentioned, but has responded with her team to help international students and to continue making online learning university-wide, not just for international students, but university-wide, to foster continued excellent teaching. Stephanie, the cat is in higher demand than ever before across the university as faculty adapt to the online teaching and learning environment. What are some of the biggest challenges to online learning, especially with respect to teaching international students who remain in their home countries? And what resources has your team offered to assist faculty in addressing those challenges?
Well, thank you, Suzanne. I would say there are benefits and challenges to online learning. As Martyn just mentioned, there are some definite benefits, and a lot of faculty are finding, as they're switching to this online environment, that there are some things they may like to continue to do once we're done with this pandemic kind of life. But of course, and I'll talk about that in a minute, I mean, some of the benefits are obvious, like the idea that it's easier to get to class. Basically, you just roll out of bed and turn on your Zoom. It's not that hard. But also ways of collaborating and talking to each other. It provides more opportunities. Some students actually, especially either shy students, students who might be second language learners, or students who might be less confident in speaking in a large group or in front of other students may find the chat very useful for communicating because they feel more confident doing it that way. It just provides lots of different kinds of ways for people to participate. And it's kind of interesting what has been coming out of this experience. But the challenges are there, and Martyn mentioned some of them. And international students have some particular challenges that are specific to their context. One is, as Martyn mentioned, access to and reliability of technology. So that's for all students. And the assumption that even our domestic students have reliable access to technology is a flawed assumption. So what we've been finding is we need to ask our students, do you have the hardware you need? Some of them only have a smartphone to do class on, right? Do you have the Wi-Fi connection? And is the Wi-Fi connection stable? Do you have other people in your home that have to use the technology? So we're finding that some students have to share technology with siblings, with parents who are working from home, from other people that are studying remotely in their space. So that creates some concerns as well. So for the fall semester, as Martyn mentioned, Information Technology Services created a way for students to request assistance with hardware and Wi-Fi. So students can take advantage of that resource. All you have to do is put a TU help ticket in to request that. But we also guide faculty on how to work with some of these barriers and support students in completing coursework when they might have these kinds of challenges present. For international students in particular, we really work with faculty who find that students access to their normal technological applications such as Zoom or the Google Suite, forget the Google Suite in certain countries, right? That can be blocked in a particular country. So we're working with them to figure out alternatives. How can we help that student to complete the class, even though you're sort of relying on certain modalities for the rest of your class? And so we've been having consultations with faculty. We have workshops about this, but also we have consultations for particular cases as well. The other issue is the time difference, of course. And remember, when we're talking about online learning, there are different kinds of online learning. Asynchronous learning, which means there's no set times to meet. Everything's done like through Canvas usually. That's not such an issue with time difference. But synchronous classes where there are scheduled meeting times can be an issue with time differences. As we know, Matt is here from Japan, and it's, 6:30 in the morning or something, Matt? It can be difficult. The other issue is sometimes in certain kinds of courses, like asynchronous courses, for instance, students can suffer from isolation. Their mental illness that they might have might be exacerbated. For instance, they have no way of connecting with people. They feel very disconnected. They can lose motivation for learning. So we're talking to faculty a lot about how do you create community in your courses? How do you keep connection with your students? How do you create a presence in a course that's online so that students know you're there and that you're connected to them and that you care? And so all of that is really important for them to think about in all online courses, but perhaps especially for students who might feel very disconnected if they're far away or if they have no way to connect with other students. I will say that our center has been busier than ever, as you say, Suzanne. We just did our last 6 months. We just did a count of we always count how many individuals we serve and how many contacts we have with faculty. We just figured out that we have 15,000 contacts with faculty in the last 6 months. That is actually, we normally have about 10,000 in a year. So if that gives you any kind of idea of what kind of traffic we're seeing. We've also served 3/4 of all Temple faculty and TAs. So our center has been really providing workshops and resources on teaching in online and hybrid modalities for faculty. And by the way, physically distanced in-person classes that are very odd to teach, right? And other kinds of simulcast classes where half the class is sitting at home and half is in front of you in person. So we've been doing training on all kinds of different sorts of modalities, but also the tools. You need tools. You need technological tools in these online environments, especially. So we talk to them a lot about those kinds of tools and we train them on that. We do a lot of email resources. So we push content out as well as have faculty come in to Zoom workshops with us. Everything is virtual right now, unless a faculty requests an in-person meeting, which we will accommodate. We have a teaching blog, Advice Exchange, on our website, where we talk about lots of issues. We've done a recent one on teaching your international students. And we use social media. So faculty get Tech Tip Tuesday, some sort of a tip on Tuesdays about teaching with technology, for instance. We created specific web pages for the pandemic, the remote move, and also again for return to campus in fall, and we'll be doing that again for spring. And sort of thinking about how do we design really great courses that engage our students and help them to learn, no matter what the modality is. How do we also show great compassion for our students in this particular environment where we really need to all have grace with each other, right? We all need to show compassion for each other. And what does that look like? How can we maintain rigor and show compassion? You can do all that at the same time. It just takes some thinking. And we are sort of talking to faculty about all the things in between, as well as, by the way, providing some opportunities for faculty to talk to each other. So kind of a virtual water cooler events, because they need that too. Faculty are also feeling like they have a lot on their plates and they are somewhat isolated as well in their homes and dealing with some of the same issues students are dealing with. So all the way around, we find that just talking with faculty and asking them to connect with us and problem solving help in these situations. And I think it really helps our international students in the long run, because we are able to problem solve and help them learn.
That's great, thank you. I know you've been so incredibly busy the last 2 months, so I want to give you an extra thank you for saying yes when I reached out to ask you to participate in these events this week and to provide all of the support you've provided to make this happen. So thank you again. So we are running just slightly behind schedule. I don't see any questions at this point in the chat. I do see Professor Ralph Young is already doing some virtual lectures in his classes. That's fantastic. And Mary Conran has placed the form where you can, if you're interested in inviting a faculty from abroad into your class next semester, that link to that form is in the chat here. And Leah Hetzel has placed the link to the international student event recording. So thank you for doing that. I think we'll continue to move forward. We do have that question and answer portion at the end, so we can take any additional questions or comments then. But I want to turn now to think about what the future holds for international education. You know, what does the spring and beyond look like, and how can technology continue to support international education in the future? So Stephanie, you've already talked about this a little bit, what some of the benefits are of online education. Is there anything that you want to add, you know, thinking forward to that, and maybe something that faculty should really be thinking about when they're considering implementing intercultural learning into their virtual classrooms?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is that, as Martyn mentioned, technology means connection. No matter what the circumstance might be, there are ways. The reason why you're getting more people into your Zoom meetings, partly it's that they really want that connection, right? Those Zoom events, but partly it's easier. I mean, again, it's an easier connection in some ways for some people in certain environments, right? So we're providing more variety of ways to connect, more variety of ways to be with each other and to discuss things. Some of the tools we use, so for instance, Voicethread, my favorite nerdy tool, everyone knows who's come to any of my workshops that I love this tool so much, allows participation asynchronously without having to be in person, where people can use audio, video, comments. We can comment on each other's work. It's a very interactive thing, but with time zone issues, it really is you're able to carry that conversation across time and involve lots of people in that conversation. And that's a really wonderful choice. And also, I would say one of the things that's really wonderful is what was just mentioned in the chat, is that you can invite people to come into your room, into your Zoom room and into your classroom without having to pay travel expenses for them, right? Without any kind of the sort of barriers. They can come as a guest speaker to your class. We right now have this International Collaboration Connection Program. I think you put a link in the chat That's a wonderful way to sort of request a guest speaker in your class. And I think that's a wonderful idea. Use some of our experts in Rome and Japan for your classes and vice versa, so that we can all get a little bit more connection to each other interculturally and get some more perspectives, not just a US perspective on things, but really a broader perspective on issues of importance to all of us, like COVID-19, for instance. When you're thinking about how to make your classroom more intercultural, I would say, ask yourselves, how can you bring in voices and perspectives from other cultures? Can you look at the issues that you normally teach with a more global lens, providing access to other worldviews on contemporary issues and problems? Do you always use American examples? Do you always use American articles? Do you always use American examples and cases and speakers? I think if you introduce case studies, literature, research, experts in the field that are global, you broaden students' perspective. It enables them to engage with these international perspectives. So I guess what I would suggest is think about one opportunity. If you don't already do this on a regular basis, I would think about one opportunity that you can add to your class this semester, and then add another one next semester. So those incremental changes that we believe in, that are key to reworking curricula, with sort of the goal of developing globally competent students. We want our students to be able to think in a more global and connected way. And so, think about one opportunity. What's one thing you can do with your students that will help them to connect to that more global perspective?
Great, thank you. And I think, I believe Emilia has a follow-up to add to that before we move back over to Matt.
Thank you, Suzanne. Speaking of the future, of course, we do expect that international education, study abroad, they would still keep some of the traditional elements. So international students would go to the States because it is the place for the top education in the world. And of course, students will be traveling abroad because they want to explore. So certainly in the future, Temple Rome would continue with a lot of the things that it has been doing. After all, this is Rome, so people always come to Rome sooner or later. But what has changed is that this experience has really enriched us in our thinking. It has opened new horizons and has showed us in how many different ways we could serve that purpose. So I do think that even if you have a student that comes on a study abroad program, this experience would be very different. There would be a lot more hybrid formats. There would be a lot more blended learning. There would be a lot more cross communications. So Matt mentioned programs that we do together. So some of the things that we're doing in the spring is an exhibition of alumni from our very well recognized Tyler School of Art that would include Japan campus, Philly campus, and Rome campus. So those are things that we would continue to do even when we have students on the ground. So I think that our students here would have a richer perspective and experience because we would be using those virtual tools that our faculty acquired. And again, thank you, Stephanie. All of them went through the CAT training this summer, and they're so well equipped now to be so versatile and so agile. So a student that comes here would probably have a lot more interactions with students on the other two campuses because of those new opportunities that we discovered. I do hope that this initiative would help our faculty across campuses to reach to each other, to think of ways that they could connect their courses, that they could have students from their classes talk to each other, work on joint assignments, and all of this, regardless of where you are, expands your horizons. So I think that going forward, yes, we will travel. We can't wait for it. We can't wait to be able to see each other, to hug each other. And I hope that sooner or later this would be possible again. But I think that there's no turning back on what we've learned. And I think that it would, in a very positive way, pave the way forward to a much richer a format and experience that we can deliver to students from across the globe.
The silver lining. Well said. Thank you. Matt, Dean Wilson, I know you have some follow-up on this. So you began your tenure as Dean of TUJ this September, but you have a long history with TUJ and previous experience with implementing e-global learning initiatives and formal virtual exchanges. Can you tell us a little bit about your pre-COVID experience with e-global learning and how you envision bringing that experience to TUJ? What are some of the opportunities you think you could bring to main campus that could bring main campus, TUJ, and Temple Rome together through e-global learning initiatives? I know Emilia's already talked about them to some extent, but perhaps you could elaborate there.
Sure. Really over the last decade, one of the things that I have done in the classroom and, as a leader of campuses has been to facilitate e-learning experiences. And part of those have been, just the connectedness, trying to facilitate that. The other part has been skills development. So let me just, very briefly kind of give you an example of some of the formats that I have been involved in. And then from the skills development side, what it is. I mean, naturally, just getting online and teaching either asynchronous or synchronous. I mean, that's one way, and I've done that in South Korea and in China. One of the things that's even more effective is if you've got a co-teaching element in that class where you've got one professor in one location and another professor in another location, that tends to be even more effective because you can have that on the ground development of relationships. When I was president of the University of Akron, we talked with our political science department about taking an even bigger step. Oftentimes you think about two different universities, which has been what I had done previously, but we actually ran a simultaneous class involving the University of Akron in Ohio, a university in France, a university in Brazil, and a university in South Africa. It was on the presidencies of each country, and each university, each campus got 4 weeks to teach their component. There were students on the ground in all of the different campus locations. It was a phenomenal experience to try and see. Another thing, I talk about skills development. I think in engaging students, a passive learner is not the best learner. And so, what can you do? I taught international business law over the last 10 years. And every year we've done it, we have put in a negotiations component, an international negotiations component where, you lecture, you talk about it in the classroom, but, you connect, let's say, Temple students with students at a foreign campus or, foreign location, and would actually have them do virtual mock negotiations. Timing was difficult, but, in the US, we would have our students in on Friday night. Foreign campus, you would have somebody on a Saturday morning. But, they would go through that progress. They go through that process, making contacts, really having that fear of the unknown. You would do a recap of their performance negotiation-wise in terms of what worked practically, what worked legally, what worked from a cultural standpoint, and then you would go ahead and have them, do that again. This weekend, I was involved judging an international competition, for instance, where we had students primarily from Japan, but also from Australia, from Singapore, from China, from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and around the world. Really, I think those students having that in-person experience where they're engaging with like students from across the globe, those are things that we can build on as well. Having a champion on both sides of the ledger, definitely important. Trying to find ways to integrate skills into that. And maybe that skill is a presentation, that the students are doing. If you can't or don't want to go to the length of having some type of a practical skills component of that course, but you can do group projects, and there's nothing that limits students through the use of technology to engage in group projects. It's just, there's a lot more work on the front end in terms of organizing it, but I'll tell you, just based on my 10 years worth of experience, that organizational time and energy that gets spent, it turns into some of the most meaningful exercises for the students when they can actually have that interaction, have that interconnectedness, and be able to develop their skills.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. And I think to your point, in talking about your history of experience doing this, the idea of collaborating across, using technology to collaborate across the world is not not a new one, but is certainly becoming ever more important to do this year. And with all of your experience and innovation, we're certainly well poised to be able to do that at Temple. So thank you. So Martyn, what do you anticipate the spring semester will look like for international students coming to the U.S., and what role do you anticipate that technology will continue to play in supporting international students in the spring and in the future term?
One of the first things that I want to point out is that this morning, the Institute for International Education released the annual Open Doors data. This is always the first event of International Education Week, which is what we're all here celebrating. And in the data release, Dr. Alan Goodman, who's the president of IIE, reminded us that this is the 12th pandemic that has hit the world since IIE was created 103 years ago. So we think that we are living in a unique situation. It's in fact just the 12th. Yes, it is the worst that all of us here remember, but it is not the only one. He also reminded us, and this is really the important part, that after every one of these previous 11 pandemics, the international student enrollments continued and international exchange continued. So we should not, as Emilia said, international education will continue after the COVID. There will be different ways to do it, and technology might be one of the ways, but it is going to continue. And the numbers, though we have had a decline of 1.8% this year, less than last year, we're talking fall 19, fall 2020 was even worse. We have approximately 43% decline in new international students coming to the United States between fall 19 and fall 20. Again, that sounds huge, and it is, of course, because of the economic impact of that. But this is, I'm hoping, and Dr. Goodman tells us, we believe everything he says, that this is going to turn around soon. So that's the first part of it. Will it happen in the spring, Suzanne? Absolutely not. This is not going to begin until the fall. I think in spring, Joan McGinley, head of international services, tells me that we've had about 40 visas issued for Temple students already. There are rumors going around the world that nobody is getting a visa. That's not in fact true. The visas are being issued. So if one has an I-20, if one has an admission for spring semester, she can go to most US consulates and apply for a visa. It is true that the visas are under exceptional or emergency appointments only, but students are being granted those appointments, and they are, again, getting the visas as long as the US consulates are open. So I am hoping that we're going to see some new students in the spring. Again, not a large number. What are we going to continue to do to support these students? ISSS has spent, as I said earlier, we spent a lot of time worrying about regulations and the ping pong ball of the international student. Well, we're going to have to continue doing that. The election did happen. There is a presumed result, yes, but we're not exactly sure yet. And in the meantime, the international student, I fear, is going to continue to be this ping pong going back and forth until the new administration is in place, until the new president has had an opportunity to rescind all of the executive orders that were put in place in the past 4 years. And that is something that we expect is going to happen within the first few days of administration, or that's what we've been told so far, we being the international enrollment world. So ISSS will continue to offer the events that the town halls. They're going to continue to speak with international students, calm them down that there are, there is a release, if you will, in the future coming, from this confusion and uncertainty and chaos that we have right now. Will the numbers come back in the fall? I believe they will. I have been participating in recruitment fairs virtually, of course, since March. And March, April, May, and June, we had students saying, no, 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 I don't want to come to the United States. As it became more clear that there might be a change in the administration, we had more students signing up to these recruiting fairs. And the word on the street there was, if there's a new administration, we're coming back to the States. Since then, I've participated in 3 more virtual fairs, all of which have had students saying, we are now looking to come back to the States. So I do think this is going to work, but it's not going to be for at least 6-7 more months. And the other thing that will be happening, and again, the other speakers have already spoken to this, is that virtual education will have to continue. There is something in the field called collaborative online international learning. That was a concept created, if you will, at New York, Albany, SUNY Albany some years ago. We're hearing these days people calling it virtual exchange, global network learning. Sorry, I'm looking down at my paper here. Telecollaboration. There are all these different nomenclatures for the same thing. Technology will continue to be an essential part of our education moving forward. As Emilia said, we need to take advantage of all that we've learned in crisis mode in the past 8 months and move forward in less than crisis mode and make these things the best opportunities we can for our students. So I do see us coming back. I don't see it coming back tomorrow, but we are going to come back. And I think we're going to come back even stronger. So we've had 5 years of 1 million+ international students in the United States. I don't see that we're going to be suffering too much. That there will be issues, there will be problems. But as we've seen today, there have been so many benefits from this crisis, I think. And we look, the optimistic among us look at the benefits rather than the crises, so to speak. So thanks.
Most definitely. There's definitely some hope on the horizon. Thank you for sharing that perspective. So I want to just talk for a few minutes about the opportunities we have offered this week. So I think Victoria's pulling up some slides for us to showcase what some of those events are. There we go. So this is just a preview of the website, sites.temple.edu Global Teach. And we've got events happening throughout the week. So Martyn, I'm going to pass it again over to you to talk a little bit about some of these events to the extent you would like to feature some of these, please.
Sorry. Some of these events are going to focus again on international students coming up, and I would like to encourage not only our domestic students and faculty to attend these, but also the international students who are in the audience, because these are going to be, we're talking about international education as a whole, and I think all of our students need to recognize that they're all part of the larger international student, or the larger Temple population, if you will. It's not just one and the other. We are proverbial one big family. I can't see, unfortunately, Suzanne, the rest of the events. So I don't know how to highlight them for you. I don't know if anyone else can see them.
So we have tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, we have a faculty discussion, faculty coming again from all 3 campuses to talk about the global pandemic response and effects from various fields. A couple of them are here today. So various perspectives coming from Klein, the College of Public Health, Temple Health, a faculty member from Rome as a specialist in sociology, economists and historians. So that should be a really lively discussion tomorrow. Memorable Moments India, which is part of the International Student Event Series, is tomorrow at 5. There are a couple of workshops from the CAT that Stephanie will talk about in a few moments. We're doing a student session on language learning, cultural humility, and empathy on Wednesday. So that will be a facilitated student discussion of students who've learned another language and their experience doing so. On Thursday, we're doing global perspectives on social movements, unrest, and dissent, again, bringing together faculty from all 3 of our campuses. Another faculty session on Friday, and then we'll bring together students again at the end of the week to sort of talk about their takeaways from the week. So I'd like to ask Emilia and then Matt to kind of elaborate on how faculty can kind of take advantage of these opportunities and others that you're offering from your campuses.
Thank you very much. And I would like to actually thank Ralph, who took advantage of our offer to benefit from our faculty and he had one of our faculty members do a guest lecture and scheduled to do another one. So this was but one of the many opportunities that we provided to all of our campuses. This week, as you mentioned, there will be this panel on the pandemic, and our own Francesca Lenzi here is a specialist working with the Italian authorities on handling the pandemic and on the additional issues such as emotional and mental issues that come up with this. We also have two of our faculty on the panel on global social movements, another very engaging and interesting panel. And again, what I love most about these panels is they really bring our campuses together. So they really show that Temple is truly global, and that we're on 3 different continents. We find a way, right, to connect even at the same time, such as today. And we have our faculty come together. We have our students come together. So our faculty on social movements, we have Lorenzo Rinelli and Greg Smith, who will be talking about social movements in Europe and beyond. Greg, for example, is an expert on Italian mafia. Lorenzo is an expert on race and migration. So this would promises to be a very interesting lecture. And the last highlight I would like to point out again at Temple Rome, a faculty member side by side with our colleagues from Philly and Tokyo is Maria Ponce de Leon, a very, very experienced professor who has done so much in terms of course design and methodologies, and she would share along with other faculty her experience in utilizing this global perspective. So this would be a really good session for faculty who are eager to do that and who are eager to benefit. And I think that there's a lot more that we could do. I can share a personal experience, for example, a couple of years ago, not because of the pandemic, the 12th pandemic that we're dealing with, right? Just because of commitment to global mentality, I was teaching a joint course with a colleague in Oberlin College, and I was located somewhere in Eastern Europe at an American university. And we managed to not only lecture and teach a course together throughout the semester, but we happened to have managed to have synchronous events for students, joint assignments, and even joint presentations. And it was an enormously enriching activity. So there's no limits to what you can do. If you really want to internationalize or globalize your curriculum, if you want to include other perspectives, just give us a call here in Rome or in Tokyo, and we're here to do exactly that.
For my end,
Great, thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. I was going to say, from my end, when you talk about, how you can participate, the events that we have this week are phenomenal. We touched on a couple of other things that are there. One, I think, having these events is an incredible opportunity, but I hope that it doesn't stop there. So, as you listen to some of the panelists from our end, please feel free to follow up. I know that's one of those things where, I have engaged with different folks from around the world electronically, on an academic level, just to have discussions, almost to have a virtual, tea time or coffee hour and the like. In fact, that's one of the things I've seen with our faculty is our business folks have an every other Friday happy hour, not in person, but they do it virtually. And it's really attracted people not only from here in Tokyo, but from other places as well. So anyway, this week we have Jeff Kingston, who's participating in the response to the global pandemic. Jeff is the chair of our Asian Studies Department. And he is not only very well published and spoken, but you will find him all over the global media talking about Japan and the Japanese experience. Tina Saunders, head of our law program, will be talking about social movements here in Tokyo. We had some students who really helped found the Black Lives Matter movement here in Tokyo, and so you'll be able to hear a little bit about that. And then Kyle Cleveland will be talking about guest lecture and classes. Kyle has been with us for a long period of time. He is co-director of our Institute of Contemporary Asian Studies and is associate professor of sociology. And he's been director of our Summer Institute in the studies of Japanese popular culture, and he's done a lot of things here on campus. But one thing that I just want to highlight is talking about how you can participate and get involved. Our Institute of Contemporary Asian Studies runs a phenomenal speaker series that will bring in folks from around Japan, around Asia, really around the globe to talk about things that are relevant in the world of Asian studies. If you're interested, get on our mailing list, because, as the world has gone virtually, these events that used to be purely in person now have been switched to an online or a hybrid environment. And it's a great opportunity for anybody who is interested in the globe, international studies, Asian studies, and the like, to participate, to listen, to really expand their horizons.
And so I guess I'll finish up and add that a couple of the faculty events this week, specifically that the CAT is helping to run, you've already heard mentioned, but I just want to mention to you that guest lecture, the Friday's workshop, you don't have to fly solo, best practices for integrating guest speakers in your course. We'll have some guest panelists, as we heard from TUJ, that is Kyle Cleveland, TU Rome, Maria Ponce de Leon, and Dennis Paris from main campus. But it's also going to be really guiding you through how to do it well, how to make sure that your students learn what you need them to learn from those guest lectures, that it's not just like I'm inviting someone into my class and I don't know what to do with that, but really leading you through all the things you need to think about in order to do that well. And then we're going to be hosting on this Wednesday, a Decolonizing the Curriculum workshop at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And an associate professor of anthropology, Kimberly Williams, and some CAT folks, Linda Hazanuma and Jeff Reens, are going to be talking to you about how to design a course that really represents in a more balanced manner the sort of diverse lived experiences, histories, and perspectives of all people. So decolonizing the curriculum. Sunsets. I'll also tell you that if you go to teaching.temple.edu, and I'll put that in the chat, you'll see a tab at the top for Advice Exchange. That is our blog, and we will have a couple of blogs this week on International Education Week, different topics that will be coming up in that blog as well. And don't forget to share your own international collaborations using the faculty experience form that's on the IEW site. And I'm sure Suzanne will put a link to that somewhere in the chat. And to think about how you can request a guest speaker in your class as well.
Thank you, Stephanie. So all of the forms, and there's actually a link to your blog site as well on sites.temple.edu/globalteach. You can also find right on the homepage access to forms to request a collaboration connection. And if you have already done something and you're interested in showcasing that at a future event or on our website, you can complete that faculty experience form as well. So Victoria, if you can go to our last slide, I just want to remind you all that there are examples of some of the virtual engagement events and the cultural labs on this website. If you click on the eGlobal Experiences tab, you can see those there, and you can link to the Advice Exchange from there now as well. So, and then I think it's time to open this up for questions. So Victoria, if you could move forward one more time to that slide. And then if there are any Fox students here, you'll see there's a little FLDP program QR code you can scan for credit coming to this, and you can submit your questions. Evan, do we have anything already in the chat?
It looks like we have one right now from Fallon from the Temple News, so remember that she is recording. So the question is, what were the specific factors in choosing to run or not run study abroad programs at our overseas campuses? Many of the panelists have mentioned the emotional and mental health aspect, or economic and financial aspects, or lack of abundance of technology and time zones as factors. Were these factors in the continuation or cancellation of study abroad programs, or are there any other factors? And yeah, what are they?
Sounds good. This is Matt Wilson. Let me just kind of jump in there a little bit. As you know, we are welcoming study abroad students to our campus here in the spring. There are so many factors that are involved in, whether or not to run a study abroad program that if I started down the road, we'd probably be here for a couple of hours. So I will try and truncate it. I can tell you that, we have weekly meetings with our main campus folks all around campus to make sure that, we are following health and safety protocols, that we're operating in the best interest of the students. Study abroad is an opportunity that sometimes people will never have. Also study abroad brings so many different advantages that, from an educator standpoint, you want to open that door to the world so that, the student can grow and so that they can benefit. At the same time, health and safety have to be the utmost, priority in making this happen. I can tell you in the case of Japan, we have been following the guidance of government and health officials. And that has been a big thing. So much of it is based on local conditions as part of that. But the Japanese government has actually, based on conditions here, been very welcoming. The country was shut down in many respects from folks coming on in. They've actually opened it effective November 1st to students. The protocols are very well detailed. Health officials have determined that it is really safe, here in this country. The Ministry of Education here in Japan has actually been pushing the Japanese universities to hold more in-person classes. Elementary schools, middle schools, high schools are entirely in person at this point in time. So probably the biggest factor to Fallon's question really is, are you able to do it in a safe environment? And that's one of the key things in the world of Japan. Is the answer to that at this point in time is yes. We all know from COVID-19 that, life can change. And so you have to be ready to modify your plans, alter and to change those plans really at the drop of a hat. But that's over the last 9 months, so many people on this Zoom session have been involved in almost developing this extra level of expertise in terms of taking care of study abroad students, making sure that the programs have thought about really any contingency and have plans in action to move forward with that. At that point in time, you have a level of comfort. You can make a decision about, moving forward. The mental health, economic, financial impact, those type of things, the digital divide, if you can provide a study abroad experience that overcomes all of those, it's really for the benefit of the student more than anything.
And this is Emilia. I would like to follow up on Matt and reiterating the same point of safety is the biggest concern and top priority. In our case, we had to cancel the fall semester simply because the CDC and the State Department had advisory levels of 4, and it was not possible to travel. So it was impossible for students from the US to enter the country. This then changed later in the fall, so we're planning to host students in the spring. And not that the situation has dramatically improved in terms of the development of the virus across the world, but we know a lot more about it, and we know a lot more in terms of how to manage it. So we have had everybody that you can think of on main campus, from risk management to provost office to strategic communications to university council, help us figure this out. And we have a solid plan of how we can bring students here, keep them safe, and still provide an experience that would be somewhat different from previous years for sure, but they would still have an in-person experience here, and they'll still get to experience Rome firsthand. But again, the question is it safe? And now that we know a lot more, and we have all the protocols in place, and we have all the contingency planning done, yes, we can do it in a safe way. And really, even within that being said, there's still a great level of uncertainty because we don't know how the situation would evolve, and we don't know what international travel would look like in January. So we're hoping that levels will stay where they are, and that numbers in the US and in Europe following stricter measures would decrease, and we would be able to have our students here and provide this unique experience. So you know, if one thing that has been so refreshing is I think we have all become experts in crisis management and contingency planning, and those are skills that would come handy. If anything, it gives us more guts to face uncertainty.
Thank you, Emilia, for sharing that. And I want to really thank all of our panelists for being here today, but for all of the work that you've been doing to support our students these last few months and into the future. And I want to thank all of our panelists who are going to be joining us this week. And I also would really like to take a moment just to say thank you to the events team and Education Abroad that has been so instrumental in helping to pull this together. Evan Bassio, who has been working behind the scenes as our front desk coordinator, Victoria Iannarelli, who did the event designs for us, is here today, and Carrie Shanahan, who supports our events as well. So I couldn't have pulled this together, these events together without all of your support. So thank you to everyone, and I hope to see you at events throughout the week.